back as we go green here on the start of our 12th hour in the Concept Racing Series 24 Hours of Le Mans. As it is Jimmy, Mr. Get Pucked, who is just in the booth now, putting on a show for us. First place going a little deep, catching a tank slapper in the LMPH car, as is Baseface and Whiffy winner. Miyagi leading the GT3 cars, with Toxin right behind, knocking on the back door, now going for the pass. They're too wide. As Sausage Miyagi is just able to edge him out as they start the Mulsanne straight here. It's going to be Toxin with the slipstream advantage. Mr. Fox as well, looking to make a move, edging his way into this Porsche battle, making it a battle of three. As they're too wide into the first chicane, it's going to be Toxin who comes out on top with the slipstream advantage. Miyagi now on the back foot in between the two. Thank you guys all again for joining us here at the 12th hour in our 24-hour race of Le Mans. As we go back on board with the LMPH category, sorry about that. Hello. Welcome back to the 24 hours, guys. This is the start of the 12th hour, as we have Mr. Fox leading for the Team Ferrari. Right on the tail is Toxin. Oh, as the Ferrari goes too deep and has to concede. Oh, but not before giving a nice little tap to the Porsche, making him fight for it. Miyagi now under pressure by Tactical Trucker. Battles going on all over the place. We're going to open up the map for you guys. As we start the second lap here, Toxin was able to make the move on the Ferrari of Mr. Fox. The GT3 driver is starting to spread out just a little bit now, as Miyagi is still under pressure from Tactical. We're going to stay on board with this battle. Tactical Trucker making the move on Miyagi. As we're going to go on board now with Miyagi. All the drivers starting to find their pace now as the tires are starting to warm up here. Very hard to keep the back temperature alive in those rear tires with how long the Mulsanne straight is in these GT3 cars, and in the LMP cars both suffer from the rear tire loss grip there. Oh no, as it looks like Mr. Fox suffering from a spin there on the entrance to the final chicane. Not sure if there was contact or not. Real battle here seems to be between the GT3 cars and this snap. Sorry about that. Suffering from a controller disconnect. Batteries ran out of juice. And Miyagi looking to make the move here on the GRG Mercedes. Hey, how's it going? Mr. BRL has just joined us. We're going to get him to include his audio.
Yes, sir. It's done.
How's it going today? Fantastic stint, by the way, man.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sweating like a stuck pig.
I believe it, man. You were putting on an awesome performance.
Thank you. I think my wife turned the heater on while I wasn't looking.
They're good at that.
Excuse me. I'm not looking at the stream yet. We just finished our stint, so
no problem. No problem.
Right now.
Yeah, we're actually right now we're on board with Sausage Miyagi. He's gonna be wrapping up third right now for the GT3 category, but he's within a second of the GRG Mercedes, and the GRG Mercedes is within a second of the Porsche. I always get the two Porsches mixed up, but the Porsche of Toxin. Toxin's gonna be leading the GT3 field for us today in this stint.
Yeah, Toxin on fire during. He's one of the BRL guys, and during all the time that we spent practicing for this 24-hour Le Mans challenge, he was one of those drivers that showed a lot more consistency than most did in the GT3 car. So it really doesn't surprise me that he's out there doing well at this time.
Yeah, we were talking about that a lot in the booth, that consistency is the absolute key in a race like this. With 24 hours separating the start and the finish, it's going to take the most consistent driver to win. Not necessarily just the quickest or the fastest lap is going to win this race for you at all.
Yeah, and just coming from like my experience now, the second stint that I've done, our team for LMP only has 3 drivers. We had a fourth. Unfortunately, his wheel took a dump on him, and he wasn't able to make it. And yeah, kids work wonders, don't they?
Right.
But
yeah.
Yeah, things happen, but you know, we're doing the best with what we can, with what we have, and we're just really happy to be a part of the challenge. You know, this challenge, from what I've found throughout my first 2 stints, is really more or less being as careful as possible in our car, because they're how would I put it? We close the gap on the GT3 cars so fast and so rapid that some of the guys in the GT3, I think, aren't quite ready for how fast we're going to be there.
Right.
So there's a gap, and we aim to put our car in that gap, and they close that gap because it's the racing line, and they're technically supposed to hold it. So they're doing their job, but we close so fast that a lot of times us LMP drivers get caught out making mistakes.
Oh, wow.
As you saw a lot of our guys do.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I can't believe we just missed that double overtake of Tactical Trucker. Tactical Trucker now leading the GT3 field after making a double overtake on Miyagi and Toxin. Toxin now in the middle of this pack. You guys are bunched up into the first chicane. We're going to go on board with Sausage Miyagi as he wraps up this pack for first place here between the 3 of them. Sorry to interrupt you there, BRL.
No, you're fine. On track action is way more important than just filling the session with worthless talk.
Oh, don't worry. Me and Jimmy were doing our fair share of that. Towards the
over a
towards the end of the
24-hour race, it's
kind of hard, right?
Over a 24-hour race, it's kind of like Karun Chenduk has said many times. You have to find something to talk about. Whenever you're not in the commentary booth, you're either taking a nap or you're googling facts and things that you can talk about. Past race wins. Oh, who is that? Miyagi getting very close.
Yeah, we're gonna go back to the trackside camera here. We're gonna go back on board with Toxin in the middle of the pack.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Miyagi was the driver that was leading his stint in that Porsche before he made a pit stop, and then had an issue at his house with his daughter,
Yeah,
and had to
I
go
did
tend to
hear
her,
about
and he
that.
fell all the way to the back.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
Unfortunate that he had to do that. But me being a father myself, I would definitely have to stop and take care of the child first rather than uh, continue to race on. So good on him
yeah.
to take care of that. Family's way more important than what we're doing right now. Just ask my wife.
Yeah. I am gonna unfortunately have to step away from the cams real quick. We're gonna stay on board with Toxin for the next 2 minutes, but I will be right back. I'll defer if you can give me just.
No, that's fine. So right now, I believe we're on board, or we're not on board, but we are trackside following Toxin on Fire. Toxin on Fire, part of the BRL race group that has shown up here today to take part in this 24-hour charity event. Uh, Once again, we'd like to say thank you to all the drivers that are taking the time over the past few weeks to get ready for this big event. This wasn't just a small thing that was put together very rapidly and very quickly. I'll have all of you know that are watching. This is something that was months in the making, and then everybody got together a few weeks ago and was talking about doing this practice race as well. We did 8 hours at Spa last weekend. That went very well. Had many of us excited for this race today. As you can see, Toxin on Fire getting a little closer, or no, he's actually lost out that position to Miyagi, and I missed that. I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get everything taken care of from my last stint. But it seems that Toxin on Fire has lost that position to Miyagi. Miyagi now sets loose to try to catch up to Trucker, I believe, is who is in front of him in that GT3. Meanwhile, at the front, we'll just look real fast. Whiffy Winner is in second place, currently trailing the lead LMP. Excuse me, I'm not sure who's in that car right now. Whiffy about 2 seconds behind.
Yep, sorry about that. I am
Looking
back
at that.
now.
Yeah, it looks like Whiffy's beginning to make up time. I'm not sure why it's showing him at 2 seconds back. Oh, excuse me, that's the lap time. My apologies. So he's 14 seconds back currently in the Porsche, whereas I believe that, who is that in third? Is that going to be Baseface?
Yeah,
Baseface
is going to be
running
5
third.
seconds. Yeah, 5 seconds behind Whiffy here in third place, almost 6 seconds.
And is that the Audi that's actually running in third right now?
Yes, that is the Boxyard Audi team. They suffered from an unfortunate, or I'm not sure if they're the Boxyard Audi team, but they are the Audi team. They suffered from an unfortunate disconnect. I know, unfortunate for them, very fortunate for you. You able to take the stint win there. How did you feel when Funeral Wings just suddenly disappeared?
I was actually very upset. I'd love to get in touch with him and talk to him. I was having a lot of fun.
You guys were right on each other's doors.
Well, yeah, and the Audi is just the Audi is a faster car down the straightaway. It's got a little bit more motor and a little bit more rear end gear than what the Porsche does. So the Porsche makes up for that in the corners and in the braking zone. I was able to catch him quite significantly in the braking zones, but then as soon as I would jump on my KERS button to try to get by him, you get into that hybrid, you get moving as fast as you possibly can. I would get to his door, and then it was like he just found another gear, and he would slowly creep away to me, or away from me, and then we'd have to start all over again. So after a couple of laps, it was I'd get next to him and flash my lights, and he would flash his lights and just take off. So I was having a lot of fun. I was actually upset that he lagged out at first, but then the team came on the radio and reminded me that that was one of the main cars that we were fighting. So it's unfortunate for them. It's good for our team. It's unfortunate for the event.
Yeah, you never
that one of the overall lead cars. Yeah. I mean, you say you would never wish a disconnect, but if it's the car that you're fighting, I've got to say it's like a half and half kind of thing.
It's a double-edged sword, right?
Catch
22 or
yeah. Yeah, you don't ever want to see somebody disconnect, but when it does happen, sometimes
little bit of a
Sometimes you
sense of
feel good
relief.
about it because it gives you, it gives you quite a bit of leeway. I believe we're going into this stint that we're in now with a somewhere around a 46, 47 lap lead over the Audi team. I'm not sure where we're ending up now after that stint with regards to Toyota. I'm not sure where we stand with them. I'm waiting on that to come through as I'm sending them my results now. So give me just a second, I'll take care of that. But here pretty soon, those results should be coming out. We'll be letting everybody know exactly where everybody stands on track.
Thank you so much again, also, Oliver, for joining me in the booth. It does get kind of lonely when you're by yourself for the night shift.
Well, I have been, in BRL, I've been commentating with those guys. Love those guys. Been commentating with them on our Formula One division for
Oh, cool.
a long time now. So whenever, Dizzy and I have been talking all day, we had some heated conversations at first, obviously, due to some things that happened in the first stint. A lot of drivers not happy with a lot of different things. We started to mellow out, and I was talking to him. I was like, "Look, man, who's running the graveyard shift? Do we need an American to take over so some of you European boys can get some sleep?" And he's like, "Hey, if you want to jump in, I'm all for it." And I'm more than happy to sit here for 3 hours and just watch some good racing on the telly. It does not bother me at all.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun, especially with these drivers. I mean, all of these guys putting on a great show. As still the top three of GT3, only three or 4 seconds separates all three of these drivers. One mistake is all it takes. But it seems to be a trend here in the 24-hour Le Mans. Once you make one mistake, one really big error, a majority of the time it is really hard to just find your rhythm again. Seems like it kind of takes a lot of wind out of the sails. As you can see here, the sun is going to be rising soon on this beautiful French Le Mans. Creeping over the hills.
Oh, I just saw it on the screen. I think that's Trucker. Trucker's off in the Porsche curves.
Oh no, yeah, just catching that.
I believe I just saw
camera.
that as we were on board with Miyagi. He
Yeah,
lost
great
it right
call.
there on the exit.
Oh yeah, now he's suffering from a lot of damage as he's all over the barriers
Oh,
on the
he's
Porsche curves.
hit the wall again. Oh my goodness. Yeah, now he's going to have to limp all the way home with no rear wing on that car. Quite a bit of front end damage. That's going to really affect the splitter. Look at all that damage he's got on the passenger driver's right of that car.
As he enters the pit lane, suffering from a lot of damage.
That's going to be hard for him. That's got to be really hard for him. He's been doing very well, and now he's going to have to start all over from the back. He's going to have to hope now that basically everybody else in this stint in the GT3 cars has an issue. Because he
Yeah,
has the
good
pace
point.
in that car to do well.
We've seen
But
similar things
it's
happen with
unfortunate.
Jacob too in that GRG Mercedes.
And I can tell you, going off at this track at night is something that'll really get under your skin. Just racing at night is usually not something that many race drivers are accustomed to. Most of the times the lights get turned on at the track, or you don't race at night. Take Formula One for instance; they don't race at night unless the track is lit. There's only a few
Yeah,
tracks that are lit, and
yeah,
then
of
you've
course.
got other sorts of like American sport, NASCAR. If something happens to the lights, the race stops. We've seen that in Charlotte. But with these guys, they're having to go out there and start in the complete utter darkness. There's very very little light that starts. All of us drivers notice the light started around 3 o'clock
Yeah,
in the game during that last stint. But once the light begins to get up more and more and more, you start to feel more comfortable with the car on the track. You can see more of the track. But then you come to
definitely.
the issue of once the sun gets high enough, it's coming through the windshield and it's really getting into the driver's eyes. I'm not 100% sure on where that will be on this track. I don't believe I've ran any twilight stints here. But here pretty soon, probably around the next hour or
Miyagi.
so, that sun's going to come up pretty high.
Unfortunately, I have been losing my touch here on the cams. I do apologize to all the viewers. I've got some outside interference, but missed the pass there. Miyagi now leading the GT3 category. It looks like Baseface might have suffered from a little bit of an accident there, or maybe an extra pit stop. But he is a little behind now from the GT3 or from the LMP category. Miyagi leading though against Toxin. Toxin down now 5 seconds on Miyagi.
Is it just me, or does it look like the back of that Porsche has a little bit of damage on the rear diffuser? As he goes by here, let's see if we can get a shot of it on the camera.
Get it on the track side. Let me see if I can turn this overview off. No, we need the overview. Chase camera. Can't really see too much. It looks like it's getting covered by the broadcast overlay.
Just judging by what I can see from the with the broadcast overlay in the way, it doesn't look like it. May have just been my eyes tricking me, but where I believe he may have had an issue coming out of the Mulsanne corner. We've seen quite a few of the GT3 cars struggle with a little bit of oversteer as they go through the corner. And then as the oversteer stops, they go to get on the throttle and it all starts over again. They have zero rear end grip because the car is still settling down on the suspension, and then it's just, they loop it. We always, on Toxin on Fire, gets a little off on the curb right there. That curb is one of the scariest curbs on this track. It's not what you would expect, but it's so tall and so wide. It really, if you get the tires up over it just too much, it'll yank you over into that sand trap.
Yeah, as we see here now, the gap extending by another second between Toxin and Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi, he is a great driver. He puts on an awesome performance in the other series as well. Touring cars, he did absolutely great on Alton Park, and I watched him in the IndyCar series as well. This guy can really drive it all, man. One of the first people
it's
I
great
met
whenever
in the
you find
concept
one of those
racing
drivers that can. Yeah, it's great whenever you can find one of those drivers that's a great cross-platform driver. I'll say it that way. They can drive a GT3 car. They could drive an LMP car.
right.
If you can go from driving an Indy car, which has mega amounts of downforce on it, depending on where you go, and mega amount of speed and horsepower coming onto that rear tire, and then you get out of that and you get into one of these GT3 cars, which by no means are slow in any way. They're much faster than any road car you could possibly get in.
It's very different from an Indy car. Even just
it's very different from an
seating
Indy car.
position, how you sit in the car. It's a total different perspective sitting in a GT3 cockpit and sitting in an Indy cockpit going around the same track. You sit a lot lower in the Indy car.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed since we've been on board with Miyagi during this lap, he trusts his brakes a lot more than what we've seen some of the other GT3 drivers doing. Just coming into that second chicane down Mulsanne Straight, you can see that he braked right around the 140, 150 mark. That's almost where us LMP drivers are braking from, 190 mile an hour. And he's doing it in that GT3 car, which is amazing to see. Most of the other GT3 cars are hitting their brake pedal right before the 200 board, so that Porsche is really dialed in on the brakes.
Yeah, no doubt. Miyagi really knowing how to drive that Porsche. And that's where you're going to make up a lot of time. I mean, would you agree, Alder, in the braking zones on this track, just being able to slow your car down enough to punch it through the chicane and maximize your traction on the way out?
Yeah, this is one of those tracks that there's so many long straightaways here that you want to have a very low down. You want to run as little downforce as you possibly can, even though you have to go through the Porsche curves and that final chicane, which you can carry a lot of speed into. You want to maximize your straightaway speed. So if you can outbrake the car in front of you into that turn, even by just a few feet, you're gaining a lot of time per lap. So let's say that Miyagi had Toxin on Fire directly behind him. If Toxin on Fire could brake 5 meters later than what Miyagi did, that makes a huge difference over the course of 5 laps into all of these braking zones, because they're getting up to 165, almost 170 mile an hour on some of the parts of the Mulsanne Straight, and they're hitting the brakes and getting all the way down to about 65 to 50 mile an hour in some of these corners. So the later you can be on the brakes here and the earlier you can get on the power makes such a large difference. It's not even funny, as we see one of the LMPs now coming up to lap Miyagi. Looks like the Audi. Yeah, that's going to be the Audi going by there. So the Audi still making good pace. Kind of surprising to see the Audi running down there in third right now. They may be dealing with some sort of an issue. Was there any first lap contact? The Audi making quite a bit of a mistake there throughout the first chicane.
A little bit of a tank slapper into that first chicane, huh?
Yeah, and with the LMP cars, it's easy to do because these cars, they're very hard, and this game makes it very hard, to be honest, sometimes. Because once you get the car set up, it's set up for one thing specifically. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to be faster while it's dark and the track is cooler, or do you want to set your car up for the later part of the run when it's going to be warmer, the sun's going to be out, the track's going to be getting a little more temperature into the asphalt?
Definitely.
And you have to pick one, because in this game, there's no way to adjust tire pressures before a pit stop. So however you have the tires set up, that's what you have. And you either have to pick one or the other, or pick a happy medium. Most of the LMP drivers pick one or the other. And sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't. But these cars are very easy to get a tank slapper on. As we see him coming down into this next braking zone, I want to kind of see where he brakes at. So he's braking, he's on the brake pedal a little early, just right there at the 200 meter board. I think that might have to do with some sort of a suspension issue. Because just judging by his time, or judging by his speed going down the straight, I'd say he might be dealing with some sort of a damage issue.
Yeah, potentially suffering from a little bit of damage.
I did miss the first few laps of the race, so could you bring me up to date? Was there any sort of contact at all throughout the LMP field during that?
So it didn't seem like there was any contact. We were on board with the GT3s at the beginning of the race. They were very, very tight-knit. The order had stayed the same the entire race so far. I think with Whiffy just getting a pass on base face as in terms of grid position. But from there, it seemed like Base may have made a mistake because he had fallen off the wagon, it seemed like, a little bit. But we didn't catch that because we were on board with the three-way battle in the GT3. So maybe Baseface could be nursing a little bit of minor damage. It doesn't look like there's any damage visually.
Let's also not forget that that Audi is going to have to pit about 2 laps to 3 laps earlier than what the Toyota and the Porsche are going to have to do, because it's almost as if they sacrificed fuel tank for more engine. It must have been some sort of trade-off during this year that they thought that they could exploit to make the car a little better, which it did. It made the car a little faster down the straightaway, and that really helps at a track like Le Mans, because it's basically nothing but straightaways with a few corners and chicanes thrown in here and there.
Yeah.
But the overcut is very strong here. So if for any reason that, let's say, who is that again in that first place LMP?
First place LMP is going to be Get Puck. That's Jimmy. He's racing for the Boxyard team. He took over for Dizzy.
Okay, so let's say Get Puck has to pit a few, let's say 2 laps before Whiffy.
Yeah.
The pace that Whiffy winner could show over those 2 laps versus what the pace of the Toyota would be is a tremendous difference. Because of the amount of fuel that these cars take on, I believe that the Porsche and the Toyota both take on about 61 liters of fuel on a full tank. Gives them 13 laps of fuel on one tank. That is a tremendous amount of weight.
Yeah.
Wouldn't think that it would really change the way the car handles, but I can tell you it does. It also changes the amount of speed that they can attain going down the straightaway. Now that they're getting down to a lower amount of fuel, let's see, he's actually getting close to a pit stop. He'll be pitting most likely within the next 2 laps, since he's only got 12.4 liters on board. His car is going to be a lot faster now. Yeah, Whiffy currently running about 10.2, so Whiffy using a little bit more fuel. Whiffy really likes to put that thing up into the rev limiter. As you can see, he's up against that rev limiter, almost banging it, coming into that braking zone. It gets a little wide there, but no big issues for him so far, which is good for him and good for the team. The team needs that just to be able to have a couple good stints in a row to help put something together. But as they pit, we'll have to see what that does to the third place LMP driver. Where will he come out at? Because they're both going to be able to overcut him by at least 2 laps.
Definitely.
So will the gap go from 1 minute 14 seconds to the lead to 1 minute and 25 maybe? Because they're going to be so much lighter than him?
Yeah, definitely. That is interesting to know. Oh,
did he?
Yeah.
He must have stopped already, and we missed it.
Baseface, right?
Yeah, he must have stopped already.
Yeah, see, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. I don't know if he it was at the beginning of the race. I don't know if he had like maybe some minor damage and he decided to go for a top off as well. But I really feel like that he did already pit. Because but like I said, we missed it on the camera because we were following the GT3s. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Miyagi and Toxin starting to check out. Miyagi definitely needs to put in some extra laps here for his team after what happened in the last stint.
Yeah, that Porsche team has seemed to struggle quite a bit today. Just noting with my time on track that was one of the cars that I noticed having more issues than other is that blue and teal Porsche. It seems as Miyagi, they do very well. Miyagi, like we were saying earlier, very steady, very fast, very well-mannered driver. Yeah, very well-mannered and adaptable driver on track. he's going to have to try to make up for some of his teammates' losses. And it's hard for me to put it that way because I never want to say things like that, but he's basically having to do that. What was that? That sounded sexy.
I believe that was a 3.8 liter Genesis. Yeah, it was definitely it was like a wide body Genesis, doing a little bit of throttle blip and coming up to the stop sign. Look at me commentating real life now.
Yeah, I can't start my car after 10 o'clock. The cops show up. I'm for real.
Nice.
I bought my car and I said, honey, it's got to go to the performance shop. She said, for what? I said, because if you can't hear a sports car run, it's not really a sports car now, is it?
Sure.
And then I got it home and then she was pissed off because she could hear me from like a quarter mile away.
What kind of car do you drive?
Camaro.
Oh, nice.
That was my 3-month you've been a good husband present.
Nice. Drivers really seem.
I'm actually away from the. I'm away
Go
from
ahead.
the TV right now, making me something to eat. Have the front two made any moves toward pit lane yet? Does it seem like they're on an in lap?
So it looks like here Get Pucked is going to be riding on just past pit lane actually, with 6 liters of fuel left. So he's probably going to be pushing for another lap as he starts the Mulsanne straight. Whiffy is just now coming across the line as well to start his 13th lap with 6 liters of fuel as well.
And that's really pushing it because these cars on a usual lap run about 5 to 5.5 liters of fuel a lap is what they can burn. So if they have any sort of an issue on this in lap, and that's one of the hard things that you have to be disciplined about. If they have any sort of an issue, let's say that they loop it on the second chicane or on the Mulsanne corner, they loop it, and they just bang out into the rev limiter for even 4 to 5 seconds, that can burn up to half a liter, and they might not make it back.
Exactly. It is true, and like you said, with the weight playing a big factor in the fuel as well, you know, it might be a little bit more difficult to judge your braking points with how much more speed you're carrying through these straights. Yeah, definitely going to be going in on a pit stop for these the leaders and the LMPs. Looks like the GT3 cars looking pretty good about halfway through their fuel load. Seems like these GT3 cars can get almost, you know, about 20 to 25 laps almost on a load of fuel.
Well, just from being in a party with all the guys from BRL, because we have the LMP team, but then we also have our 2 GT3 teams that are here competing today. From what I've been hearing from them most of the day, the strategy is a 2-stop, but it's a stop one time for a full fuel load, and then stop one more time for a splash.
Yeah.
And make it to the end. The last race, or excuse me, the last stint, I believe it was Taylor Clan, was actually trying to make it on a 1-stop,
Wow.
but it failed him with 1 lap to go. He had to come in and splash 3 liters of fuel into the car in order to make it. So unfortunate for him in that last stint, but he did everything he could.
If I could interrupt real quick, do you think that maybe running a couple lean laps would have fixed that?
Well, see, we were all coaching and we were constantly asking, okay, how many liters do you have now? As I can see, it looked like one of the GT3 cars actually going into pit lane. Or no, excuse me, that's the leader of the race.
Yeah, that's going to be the leader.
Leader of the race is coming to the pit lane.
This is going to be the time for base face to set up the overcut here.
And it's gonna now. This is the time to see what our leaders are thinking tire strategy wise. As you can see, it looks like the team has tires ready. If we could go back to them,
Yep.
I'd like to see
Sorry
if they
about
put
that.
tires on that car.
Yeah, we are going back to them. They are
Looks
topping the
like
car off. I'm not sure if they top the car off before they add the tires, but I think it's vice versa. Seems like maybe just a little bit of damage repair. I don't know what's going on here. This is so nerve-wracking. The lollipop is up, but he's still sitting there in the pits. Oh, now he's gone. Oh no, maybe suffering from some connection issues, or maybe an issue with the wheel or something. How could you help me maybe explain that, BRL, Mr. Aldefer? As we
to
have
be
Whippy
honest,
as well going in.
as we're looking at the Porsche pulling in now, he's pulling into his pit stall. I
No
believe
tires
that's
for
a
him either.
glitch with streaming in the game.
Okay.
For some reason, the lollipop will go up as soon as the fuel man is done from the streamer's point of view. But for us drivers, the lollipop stays down
Okay.
until we are completely done with fuel, tires, and repair. But once
Oh,
that
so you
lollipop
sort of like
goes
that
up,
there.
put your foot to the floor.
I don't know. That might have been a glitch. You're right, but it looks like Whiffy, after that lollipop went up, Whiffy was a lot quicker off the line than
Well,
Puck.
see, like I said, the fuel man had just finished and the lollipop came up.
True.
Now, what we'd have to ask is, did the Toyota have some sort of engine damage or some suspension damage that he took from hitting a curb that he had to have repaired that we don't know about?
Exactly. Good point to add there as well. It looks like Baseface was able to make the pass as Puck just edging him out of the pits.
Please excuse me for a few minutes. I will be quiet. I'm actually eating a bowl of cereal because I am bloody starving.
No problem. No problem. I already had my lunch in between the stream hop.
Lunch? Where are you at?
Well, I guess it was an early dinner. How about the West Coast? It's already like 9 o'clock. 8:50.
Oh, a bit. Over there, California, Oregon.
Yeah, I live in California. I'm right outside of Los Angeles.
My sister lives there. Well, she used
nice.
to, actually.
What part of Los Angeles?
She,
like what city did she live in exactly?
She lived just outside of, no, it wasn't Los Angeles. I'm sorry. She lived in Berkeley, just outside of San Fran.
Oh, cool. Yeah, my little sister lives up there. She used to go to UC Davis. She lives in the city of Davis.
How old are you, and what's your dad's name?
I'm 23 and my I'm just kidding. My last four of my social. I'm just kidding.
No, she actually just bought a small ranch up in the northern area, closer to Omaha. But anyway,
Nice.
it's
cool.
let's see, what time is it here? Oh wow, it's not even 11 o'clock for me. Holy crap, it's gonna be nice. I'm gonna go to bed in a few hours and get me like 2 hours and nap and get back in the car.
Yeah, my commentary ends at 11. My older brother's here visiting. I haven't seen him in like a long time. So, gotta wait for this 2 hours before we can really start hanging out. But it's
Yeah,
all
it'll
for
end
charity.
at 11 for you. That would end at 1 o'clock for me, 1 a.m.
Yeah. 7 a.m. for the boys across the pond. And we have to say,
Those Yanks will be okay.
Speaking of the boys across the pond, we do want to thank everybody, all of our viewers worldwide, for watching us here as we are just finishing the first hour and the 12th hour of Le Mans here as the sun is starting to rise on our 24 Hours of Le Mans charity event hosted by the Concept Racing Series. We're putting on this event for the helps in raising money for St. John's Ambulance, who is really great at taking care of the elderly as well as all of the sick patients that slip through the NHS or can't get the right government provided care. St. John's Ambulance is full of a bunch of volunteers. Even Get Pucked was talking about our lead driver here in the LMPH when he was in here in the booth. He was saying that he actually got first aid certified by a St. John's Ambulance course. So, everyone able to, benefit from St. John's Ambulance. So we're trying to raise 500 pounds, which we were talking about also to give in perspective for us Americans. That's around $600, a little over $600 US. And I think Get Pucked was saying, Jimmy was saying it's a little over $900 or close to $1,000 Australian currency. So quite a bit of money that we were able to raise here. Really happy with the performance of all these drivers and all the admins and everybody involved with putting this all together, all of our commentators and all the teams and all the viewers too, and everybody that donated. Thank you guys so much. It really does mean a lot. We love providing this content to you guys. We have tons of races throughout the week that we stream with live commentators on all the races. So you will be able to enjoy a little bit of banter, some project bants, if you will. Looks like everyone's starting to settle in here as Baseface really trying to make a move. Oh, Baseface, it looks like he might have gotten a little bit of damage. No more headlights on that Audi, on the Audi, and it sounds like it might be making some weird noises. I'm not sure.
I don't know if you saw it, if you saw it in the last stint, but I actually had to drive an entire lap with no front end, no lights, no nothing.
Yes.
And I can tell you, in the dark, it's scary. It's very, very scary. You can't see anything. The only thing I could do was catch up to a GT3 car in front of me and then follow him for like the entire lap so I could tell where I was going.
That's crazy.
He probably had no idea I was there, but I had to sit there. I can tell you now it's probably not as bad as we can see one of the LMP cars going through there at the bottom of the screen. It's still a little dark. The headlights are still lighting up the track quite considerably, but by this point in the day, that Audi should be pretty well all right as we see him going through the Porsche curves.
Speaking of the Porsche curves, the Porsche obstacle of the GT3 of that was Mr. Toxin taking a spin, maybe getting a little bit of damage, hopping into the pits now early is Toxin. Had a really great start here at the beginning of this stint, suffering for some front end damage, maybe losing the back end there in the Porsche curves. And that's going to open up the door for Miyagi to just keep extending that gap. And Tactical Trucker now.
That's a lot of damage, that car.
Tactical Trucker going through the end of these Porsche curves. He's going to have a chance to maybe perform the cut here in the pits. Unplanned, but I mean, hey, if it happens, it happens. That's definitely going to affect the strategy here as they're going with a splash of fuel as well. And now Tactical making the pass as Toxin is still in the pits. Baseface now closing in on Mr. Puck. The gap down to a second.
Yeah, one thing that I'd like to say I'm really enjoying is that we're now over an hour into this race, I believe. Yes, time remaining. Yep. We're over an hour into this race, and the gap at the very front is under 3 seconds, and the next, all the LMPs are on the same lap within 40 seconds of each other. So that's not something that we've been seeing very often today. We've normally seen one of them having an issue with possibly a GT3 car during an overtake. We've seen plenty of that today. We've seen many of them have issues on their own and lose a lot of time. So it's quite amazing to see all of 3 of them on the same lap within 40 seconds of each other. That's very well done. As we can see, the Audi's still running around with no headlights. Uh, I'd have to say, if this was real life, that car legally would have to box, wouldn't it? That would
Yeah,
get the black
they
and
would have
orange
called
flag,
him
and he'd
in.
have to come in. Yeah.
Yeah, they would have probably called him in by now. That's not safe to be racing without headlights, just for the fact of the approaching onto GT3 cars at Mach 1 practically. It's not very safe to be approaching with no headlights blindly. Baseface now closing the door, running extra wide at the end of the Porsche curves. He's absolutely right there now, too wide into the chicane. Baseface is going to make the pass. Oh, but now we have to remember here that Baseface is running low on fuel. Hopefully he did not just miss his pit window by making that pass.
Baseface is running low, but with I'd have to say 7 liters of fuel is enough for the Audi to make it around. This is definitely going to be his end lap though. So what Baseface needs to do is he needs to put in the most mega lap he has put in so far this stint, because he's going to have to sit in there a little while and get the aero on that car repaired. Obviously, as we see him taking out some track cones there, since he does not have headlights, there's obviously aero damage to the front end of that Audi. So once he gets that fixed, he'll be even faster. The car will feel more steady under him. But he's going to have to sacrifice time in the pit lane to have that done. So now he needs to put as much of a gap between himself and Whiffy Winner as possible. Currently, Whiffy Winner is running 38 seconds behind him. 38 and a half seconds, excuse me. So he needs to put somewhere around 45 seconds between himself and Whiffy Winner in order to make this pit stop work and keep him in second place. As it stands right now, I believe he's going to come out, depending on how much damage he has to repair, he's probably going to come out somewhere around 15 to 20 seconds behind the Porsche of Whiffy Winner. But Whiffy Winner showing some good steady pace here, a lot better than what he was doing in his first stint earlier on today in the daylight. Whiffy Winner was really kicking himself in the butt after that stint, was really upset with his performance, but he's doing a lot better now as we see the car get just a little twitchy under braking there as he comes through the first chicane, the first of 2 on the Mulsanne straight, heading down the second part of the Mulsanne straightaway. Doing a very good job of just keeping the car clean, keeping it in the middle of the track, not trying to get too fancy with it, using his curves. He's doing 190 mile an hour now, coming down the straight.
He's also up on his delta there as well, up 0.3.
Well, like I said, these cars start to come to you. As the race goes on, you feel like the car gets faster. But the car's not getting faster. It's just you as a driver settling into a rhythm that you like and that you can hold on to and do very well with.
Yep. That's very well put. Very well put. Baseface not able to close the gap enough on Puck.
It looks like Puck has actually caught him.
Yeah, the gap now about a second as they round about through the Porsche curves.
We're going to have to follow the Audi as it goes through its pit stop, because now is the time. This is going to be his second stop. Most of the LMP teams have pretty much figured out that you can do 2 fuel stints on the same set of tires, but then after that, they're dead. You have to change them, or else you will lose a lot of time to the car behind you or in front of you, however they end up. So now this is going to be his second trip into pit lane. He should be getting a new set of boots on that Audi. Let's see what they do as he rolls in for his service. He is getting a new set of boots ready. Fuel's going in. So the fuel's in, lollipop is up, so now they're doing the damage repair. I'm pretty sure he's got a new set of tires on that car.
And there goes
so that
Whitney
Audi's
there.
going to be very fast. Yeah, so now Whiffy passed him. He just set his best lap of the race. So that's good for Whiffy, and
Now
Whiffy still had a lot of fuel on board too.
As we finish the first hour here in this stint. So Miyagi and Tactical running about the same here as far as fuel goes, with Mr. Fox looking like got a bit of an advantage here as terms of fuel. Minor front end damage on that Ferrari. Oh, just as I say it, through the Porsche curves, the Ferrari loses the front end, buries it into the guardrail there. Unfortunate for Mr. Fox. Now as he's trying to nurse it, and as he's trying to nurse it back, we have DOR Vantage for the Mulsanne Collective closing in on him with a lot of fuel and toxin as well. Unfortunate for him.
Well, it's really unfortunate for him. You know, as we were stating earlier, this is one of those tracks where you have to pick one. Do you want to be fast at this time of your stint or at this time of your stint?
Oh wow!
And right now, as you can see,
out. Are you seeing that? I know you're not on the Twitch stream here. You'll see it in a sec.
Yeah, he's got.
Mr. Fox is choosing to stay out.
Too much damage. He's got way too much damage on the front of that car. That thing is going to handle like an M1 Abrams going into this first chicane, especially going over the Dunlop curve. He's not going to have any turn in whatsoever. As you see him run wide there, not catching the apex at all in the first part of the chicane.
I think we're just going to stay on board with him if you don't mind, just because I want to see how he nurses the car around this lap.
That's fine. Look at the front end of that car. You can't see it right now, but as we get to the next camera, look here. Look at how caved in the front of that Ferrari is. Looks like somebody just took a battering ram and smashed it, like a horse kicked it in the face. It's very bad. He's going to have to go to the pit lane. He's got a lot of fuel still on board from what I can see, carrying 42.5 liters of fuel. But he's going to have to make the best of this and make this his short stint and get that repaired, get a new set of tires on the car, get refueled, and go. That's what he has to do now. I'm not quite sure why this driver has decided to stay out, but coming in now to the braking zone, brakes very early, not trusting the car very much, which I would not either.
Yeah, it's
nursing it out of that corner
DOR.
very
You can see now coming into frame as DOR Vantage taking advantage. He smells the Ferrari's blood, and like a Bentley shark, he's gonna strike probably after the end of this Mulsanne second chicane.
Well, see, we say the Ferrari should be slower, but he's still running almost 170 mile an hour into the braking zone for the second chicane. So he's still got plenty of top-end speed. It's just he's not going to have anything for cornering anymore. These cars are already very low on downforce. It's a lot more mechanical grip idea on these cars, setting up the shocks and the springs and the tire pressures to make this car grip and go around the track. So you don't lose as much, but You would think with how pancaked the front of that car is, he would not be able to run 170 down the Mulsanne.
Well, I mean, all the goodies in that Ferrari are in the back. Maybe that having a little bit of an advantage or maybe a blessing in disguise for Mr. Fox, but still, yeah, I completely agree with how scrunched up the hood is. You can see there again. It's just there's no way he should be, like you said, pulling 170 miles an hour into the back of these straights. If we look at Vantage as well, Vantage not even able to hit the 170 mark that he needs. So Mr. Fox, I mean, still has oh no, as base space. No! A disconnect from base space.
Oh
Another
no,
disconnect
that's gonna
from the from the Audi team. Oh no.
Okay, now
Wow.
now this time I feel really bad because they were already I'd put it somewhere between 45 to 46 laps down due to their disconnect last stint, and now an hour in, Baseface has put in a lot of hard work already in this stint, all for naught because he's been disconnected.
Wow.
So now they're gonna
Yeah.
go another at least 30 laps down.
Wow. Yeah, very
Because
unfortunate.
on average we complete almost 50 laps per 3 hour stint in the LMP. So with them being on lap 19 now, you would have to think they're going to put in about another 30. So that's going to put them another 30 laps back. That's going to bring that car to almost 70, over 70 laps down. That's not going
Mr.
to be good for the
Fox,
Audi's
look at
team at
this.
all.
I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but Mr. Fox hopes and dreams of keeping it alive. He is staying actually out again. Not choosing to pit. Maybe, I mean, maybe the front end damage looks a little worse than it is. Could be a minor glitch or something, but that Ferrari is staying strong. And not only that, but he's keeping the gap on Vantage as well. The gap's still about 4 seconds, 3.5 to 4 seconds between the two. Interesting. The strategy here, Mr. Fox. Maybe, maybe just thinking, with only 36 liters of fuel left. I mean, the GT3 cars are running about, well, how many liters of fuel per lap would you say? About five?
For the
5 to 6?
GT3 cars, I would probably put it at 5 to 6. I would have to agree with that number. I cannot give you a definite number because I'm not a GT3 guy. I've always been an LMPH guy in this game when it comes to endurance racing. So I'm not quite sure. But if I had to guess, it'd probably be around that mark.
The Mercedes-Benz has an extreme advantage in this straight line here, as you can see, hitting almost 180 miles an hour onto that back section, into the Mulsanne curve.
Well, that's that Merc engine. I mean, we've seen across many different platforms of motorsport, Formula One, Formula E, GTE, GT3. The Merc is a very fast car in the straight line. They always build an amazing engine no matter what they're putting that engine into, whether the engine bay be in the rear of the car, under a small little canopy, or it's in the front of the car under a massive hood, as we see here with this Mercedes going around the track. Mercedes always builds an amazing race engine that is built to take punishment and is really made to just put out the max amount of horsepower it possibly can for its weight. So not surprised at all to see the Merc running 180 mile an hour down the straightaway. I can't lie, I'm not surprised as we see him going into the pit lane now to make a stop. So now the sun is starting to peak up. We are starting to see the rays shining through the trees just ever so slightly. We can still see the headlights shining down on the tarmac, quite well, quite highly lit to be honest. But now is the time where the track is going to start warming. Now is the time where we get to see whose car was set up for the night and whose car was set up for the day, as we see the pancake-faced Ferrari just blowing by the pit lane entry once again. He's going to continue on as he's been able to hold that gap to the Bentley behind him, doing a great job with that car.
Here. I mean, when you think about it, I'm going to look here. Now we're looking at the lap times of Mr. Fox. I mean, he's only 3 seconds off of his pace from his best lap, you know, compared to Sausage, who just ran a 4:10, and Vantage, who just ran a 4:05, which that was less than 100th of a second off from his best time. So Mr. Fox still able to keep the pace that he wants, maybe enough to just survive until the car's out of fuel, you know, and then force the stop there. No need to make an extra stop, I guess, if you don't have to. So I think that damage on that Ferrari just might look a little worse than it is.
Well, stopping here no matter what will lose you 45 to 50 seconds, even if you just go in for a top off, or excuse me, a splash and go on some fuel. You will lose 45 to 50 seconds. You cannot lose that at a track like this. At a track this large, where it's 8 miles long, and you only have a few corners for drivers to make mistakes in, you cannot take the risk of losing that much time. So now that we see that the Ferrari's pace is okay, obviously us as commentators, we can't actually see the amount of damage on the suspension or the aero of the car or the engine. So now that we've been able to see just through looking at his lap count and his lap time and his delta time throughout the sectors, that he's not too far off. I agree with this decision to stay out and run till the end of the fuel load and then swap over, most likely get on a set of brand new tires. That's really going to help him for once this track starts warming up a lot more, because this track's probably going to gain 15 or 20 degrees track temperature before this stint's over.
It's pretty fair to say that. I actually have a message here from Race Control, just everybody watching, for that unfortunate disconnect of base face. We heard that his end, it just stopped all of a sudden. Just stopped, you know, just seems to be the story with all disconnects. I know it happened to me during touring cars as well. You're racing, you're having a great time, and then out of nowhere you just get that arm of the hand of God, if you will, that that just takes you right off of the face of the internet. And it's really unfortunate with these peer-to-peer connection lobbies. You know, it's like we were saying in the previous net, hopefully Project Cars 3 can make some dedicated servers for racers like us, so that we can actually, you know, enjoy a 24-hour race without any disconnect, no matter what part of the world we're in. But very unfortunate for Baseface. He did want to say, you know, that he was happy to jump in the comms for an interview. If we can get him in here, I don't see why not. Let's get Baseface in here right now.
Just continuing to watch the Ferrari as they go down the straightaway. If you wouldn't mind, while you're attempting to get a hold of the Audi driver, if you could flip back to that beautiful Bentley as it's making the run down toward the Porsche curves, that would be great.
Such a spectacle, that Bentley, really, right? Sounds great.
We're
actually going to go with the chase cam so we can hear it. There's Baseface, perfect. It might be hard to hear us over the chase cam of this Bentley, but I don't think the viewers mind too much. This is some nice ear symphony, a mechanical symphony, if you will, of Bentley magnificence, as the LMP
and what a
adding
beautiful
to the mix
car.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, Bentley
Withy
really
winner
nailed the
going
look.
by him in the Porsche. But Bentley, just a beautiful car. It's so large. It's almost like when the BMW showed up on the scene back in 2017 or 2018,
Yeah,
when
with
they
their
were so much larger, so
yeah.
much taller than every other GTE car out there on track. You were wondering how they were able to even keep up going down the Mulsanne Straight. They had such a much larger wind funnel on the front of the car
Yeah.
compared to
When you
every
look at
other
the Bentley,
GT3.
yeah, when you look at the Bentley compared to the Mercedes, I mean, the aerodynamics, it looks like the Bentley's got the aerodynamics of a blue whale, you know? It's not,
But yeah,
it's
it's like putting a tractor trailer up against a Ferrari, basically, when you look at it.
and it really does show in the straights though. The Mercedes Benz is almost getting an extra 9 to 10 miles per hour through the straights. We're gonna go right here on Vantage, base face actually here. If you got your audio included, we would like to hear about that horrible disconnect that you had, man. I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah, hi guys. So I'm hoping the guys on the stream can hear me. I've included my audio. Yeah, obviously getting disconnected in that last stint. Really shaping up into a nice battle between the three LMP cars. Obviously, I gained a little bit of damage and dived into the pits early. So on a slightly kind of opposite strategy to the two other guys, and I felt like I was kind of gaining ground a little bit on the other two guys. So yeah, really disappointed and. But don't worry, we'll be back in the next stint just to try and run as much of the race as we can.
Nice. Yeah,
Tell
really
us what
happy.
that Audi feels like going down the track, because you can only hold 10 laps worth of fuel. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas the other two cars, the Toyota and the Porsche, can both hold 61 liters, 13 laps worth of fuel. So that 3 lap difference that you can't hold, how does that affect how Audi is going into this race? Since you're going to have to stop earlier, you can't make the overcut work like what the Porsche and the Toyota could try. How is Audi approaching this to try to make up for that lost time in the pit lane that you're going to have to work with?
So basically, we spent an awful lot of time this week just working out stints and working out kind of how long we could run tires for, and we worked out pretty quickly that we can actually double stint tires if we really needed to. So if it really came down to it, I mean, at this point, we're racing for third place at this point, so we're just kind of just out there having a bit of fun. But we could have double stinted our tires fairly easily if we needed to. Obviously, yeah, like you say, we can't carry as much fuel as the rest of the guys. But obviously, we've got a bit of a straight line speed advantage down the Mulsanne Straight. So we were hoping to kind of make that kind of pay to our advantage a little bit, and just kind of like you say, just kind of spend as little time in the pits as possible. Obviously, the
Yeah.
format that this. Sorry, go on, Oliver. What are you going to say?
No, I was going to say, we saw that straight line difference in the last stint where I was actually in the Porsche racing against the Audi driver before he disconnected, which I was very upset about because I was having a lot of fun playing tag with him. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you could get a hold of him for me, but please let him know that I was having a lot of fun and I was really enjoying that, and I was upset at the fact that he got disconnected. We saw that the Audi was faster because we could see the Porsche come out of the corner on the button, on the hybrid button, and the Porsche would pull right up next to the Audi, and then it's like the Audi would find another gear, or they got a rocket booster underneath that car that they flick on whenever they hit 170 mile an hour. That Audi is so fast in a straight line. What is the top speed that y'all are hitting in that Audi right now?
So we're hitting on kind of max hybrid. We're hitting about 350 k's an hour, which if I do my maths into kind of Church of England very quickly, that's about 215 to 220 miles an hour down there. It's kind of topping out as we hit the brakes into that first chicane. Obviously, as you were saying, that was something that we specifically talked about as a team and said, look, if you end up with a Porsche behind you, they're going to have the advantage coming off the corners. Obviously, that Porsche are incredibly nimble through the twisty stuff. So let them get up alongside of you. Obviously, Porsche are able to generate a little bit of hybrid in the straights. but let them get up alongside of you and then nail the KERS button, and just kind of let the Audi kind of just stretch its legs and just walk away from the Porsche, which obviously you experienced in that last stint. I did speak to Funeral Wings, Ed, just before he's actually popped to bed for a little bit now, just to kind of grab a little bit of sleep, and he was incredibly disappointed. He was very much enjoying that battle between himself and yourself there.
Yeah, great on-track fun, really. I wouldn't even consider a battle. Things like that I find the most fun as a racing driver. When you got another car that is just a little bit better than you somewhere, that you have to figure out how to beat it, because I could pull on the Audi into the braking zone almost, I'd say almost by 30 or 40 meters. The Audi was having to brake a little earlier than the Porsche was, and I could pull up to him, but then as soon as we got on the straightaway, I would have nowhere to go because he would jump on that button right whenever I was about to run out of my button. And I find that to be so much fun. I hope the people at home enjoy things like that as well, because to me as a racing driver, that's what it's all about. On track with somebody who's basically the same exact pace as you, trying to figure out how you're going to get by. And then it almost became like a game to us after about 2 laps, because I would get next to him and I'd flash my lights and then he'd flash his lights and he'd just leave me. And I was having a lot of fun. So I'm sorry that he left. I'm sorry that he had to go due to that disconnect, but that was a lot of fun. I was really just wondering about the Audi, to be honest, because I had never driven it before. Coming into this race, I had always driven the Toyota, but the guys really wanted us to bring the Porsche. So I just really had questions about the Audi more than anything. But I appreciate you coming in here and giving me those answers.
If I could actually intervene for 1 second, I was wondering, Chris, do you think you might be able to take over comms for me for about 10 minutes? I just have to run a quick errand for my dad. He's bugging me about something.
No problem.
We're going to stay on board with the Bentley, just because it looks like he's going to be making a move soon on the Ferrari, even though the Ferrari does have to take a pit. But we're just going to stay on board with this beautiful Bentley with the Mulsanne Collective, and I'll be back in 10 minutes' time.
Cool. So, like my colleague Dixon said there, we're just riding on board with DOR Vantage for a little bit as he's closing in on the Ferrari in front of him. Obviously, you guys have talked about this. I caught the end of it as you guys have talked about this Bentley already there, Junior. So, just kind of run me down how much. Do you have any experience with this Bentley, or have you kind of raced it at all?
I have been out on track with the Bentley a few times. I'm an American, so obviously we're suckers for a big engine. We love the V8s. We love anything that sounds like it's got a very deep growl while it's sitting there at idle. It's a very fun car to drive. It's not as nimble through the corners or into the braking zone as, let's say, the Ferrari. Or definitely the Porsche. It will not keep up throughout the corners or the braking zone with the Porsche. But we've already seen throughout this stint, just in the short amount of time that we've been watching him, as we see him go through the final chicane, very beautiful line through there in the Bentley. A little bit of flame coming out of the exhaust. That's always a beautiful sight. As he goes down, we've seen this Bentley running about 10 mile an hour faster throughout the Mulsanne straight than all the other GT3 cars base face. He gets up to about 182 mile an hour is the top speed that I've seen this car go, whereas the Ferrari and the Porsche all make it to about 170 to 171, and then basically the rear end has no more. The rear end gearing can't give it any more than that. So the Bentley does show a little bit more speed down the straightaway, but unfortunately you have to be very fast down the straight, but you also need a nimble car through the corners at a track like Le Mans. And the Bentley just isn't really that car, in my opinion.
Yeah, obviously going back to the big engines, there's no replacement for displacement, as it were. And so, like you say, the Bentley being affectionately described by the guys driving it as the boat at this point. And just speaking to Vantage earlier when he was on commentary with myself earlier in the race, he was saying that they were struggling with the gearbox a little bit in the Bentley, just purely because, like you say, they can't get the rear end gearing to kind of just give them the top speed that they want down the straight. So they're actually having to run an awful lot of wing just to try and save the motor a little bit, and just make sure that it's not kind of screaming on the limiter at most of the way down the straight.
Well, see, and that's one of the things that you kind of have to give and take at a track like this, because you want to have a little, as we were saying earlier before you joined into the party, Baseface, this is one of those tracks, and with the GT3 cars, they are not an aero-dependent car. They are in no way heavy on downforce whatsoever. They have that very small splitter in the front. They have a very minute amount of a aerodynamic under tray under that car, similar to a skid plate, but it's actually funneled and channeled to provide downforce for the car. Then they have the massive rear spoiler, which, although it is massive, these cars don't get up to the speeds to really bring that rear wing into its full potential. They do have a pretty big diffuser on the rear end. However, looking at the rear end of the Bentley, it basically doesn't have one at all. So this car is basically made for mechanical grip, aka they're using the shocks and the springs and the tire pressures to maintain all the grip in this car. As you can see him swerving down the straightaway, it looks like he's kind of trying to put some heat into the tires as we see him coming into Indianapolis. Going through these corners very well. He's running very clean laps, very respectable laps. However, the Bentley just doesn't seem to have the aerodynamic ability and the rear end gearing to get down the straightaway the way that this car really should.
Yeah, obviously the GT3 cars all kind of having to be homologated and kind of based on kind of road-going versions of the cars that you can see out on track. And unfortunately, the gearbox for the Bentley and the kind of differentials for the final drive, just not kind of working for this car at Le Mans. Just going back to kind of talking about suspension and damping. I don't know if you guys found this in the Porsche, but we found it kind of really beneficial just to slacken off all the damping and just let the car kind of roll with the bumps a little bit, and otherwise you find yourself kind of skipping from bump to bump in these in the LMP1 cars.
Well, with BRL LMP, we could not all agree on a setup. I made my own, and then Livid Possum made his own. Whiffy ran Livid's setup, but then earlier today we all three got together before this race started, which was at 11 a.m. Eastern time in the United States. We all got on around 9 a.m. this morning, and we all found that if we took the setup that Livid had made and the setup that I had made and combined them, they worked better, but we still made our own little minute changes. We took out a lot of the camber on the car. You know, these LMPs come stock with something like 2.5 degrees on the front, about 3.5 degree negative on the rear. And we basically have flattened that out to try to give the largest contact patch possible, as it looks like the fog is now starting to roll in. I can see it on the helicopter cam now. There's quite a bit of fog on track. Something the guys are going to have to deal with, but shouldn't really affect them too much as they're all pretty well spaced out. Just back to what we were talking about. I'm running probably a stiffer suspension than what you would think, and then also with the third bar, I run or a third spring. Excuse me. I like to run a pretty stiff third spring, especially at a track like this, because the LMPs, before you put the downforce on the front wing and the rear wing, are already running so much downforce on that car that, in my opinion, if you're not running a pretty heavy third spring, you would be smacking the under tray and the undercarriage of the car and the splitter on the front of the car. You'd be smacking it off the ground once we reached about the 210 mile an hour that we were running earlier in that previous stint. So setup really matters a lot here, but there's a lot of different things that you can do with the setup just depending on your driving style, because many different drivers drive in a very different way than the other guys on their team. I like to throw the car into corners, whereas Whiffy likes to allow the car to roll into the corners. I like to brake as late as possible, whereas Livid Opossum would rather brake a little earlier and get that amazing exit. So you have to set your car up differently depending on what your driving style is. That's how we went about it coming here to Le Mans. I don't know about everybody else, but that's how we decided to do it. Just make your own, get something that you're comfortable with, and make it something that you can be consistent with. Don't run really low downforce to the point to where whenever you get into the Porsche curves, you're having to let off the throttle and be real scared about the rear end sticking. So that's how we did it.
Yeah, just going back to your kind of different driving style, it's something that we found as well with Team Audi. So the main difference we found was between myself and Brad, who was obviously our driver for the first stint. Brad was, when we first, with the kind of first version of the setup that we ran, Brad was finding the car kind of really snappy under heavy braking and just kind of struggling with the rear coming around on him. And we actually worked it out to be because I brake an awful lot softer than Brad does, and I sound as though I'm very similar to Whiffy here in that I will kind of brake a little bit earlier, especially with the Audi as well, because obviously the Audi only generates curves under brake, so it does benefit a little bit just to kind of brake just that little bit earlier, not necessarily as hard as you possibly can, but just keep those brakes on a little bit. And with like I say, we had to kind of take account of the fact that Brad was going to be braking an awful lot harder into the corners than maybe myself or other members of the team. So we're just riding on board with Vantage at the moment. So I'm just going to run you through the leaderboard at this point. So obviously Jimmy P was in the lead of this stint. I'm not entirely sure what the situation is with laps at the moment. Hopefully we get an update from Redshift fairly soon. With Whiffy winner in second place. Obviously myself, I should be in this stint at the moment, and unfortunately got myself disconnected from the game. So it looks like Sausage Miyagi there in first place in the GT3s. Obviously Back Marco Racing not having the greatest of runs in the last couple of stints, but hopefully Sausage Miyagi able to make his way back through the field with DOR Vantage, who we're riding around with now, just to kind of keep us company whilst we wait for Dixon just to come back. Tactical Trucker, who is one of our other GT3 drivers, currently sitting in third place, and I believe that Tactical is driving the Mercedes. So again, for yourself, Junior, there's a nice big V8 there in the front of the car.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Trucker is recovering from an early off that he had in that car. He actually went exploring in the sandbox with that car early on. If I remember right, he actually did end up barely putting it into the wall. So he did have to do a little bit of work to the car to get it repaired during the pit stop, but the team were able to get him back out on track rather easily. So now he's trying to recover, but we have seen great pace out of the Mercedes since he's come back out. We're really waiting to see when everybody pits, because depending on when these GT3 cars go into the pit lane and how much fuel they come out with, depending on the amount of time left in this stint, is really going to determine where they're going to end up, who's going to be faster, who's going to be able to catch who. So just looking through the rest of the field, Toxin on Fire is your driver currently in sixth. He's one of our boys from BRL in that GT3 car, currently running 14 minutes, 5 seconds behind the leader, who is the LMP, obviously. And then in seventh place is going to be, I'm not actually sure who that is, MRF.
So that's Mr. Fox Fantastic, who had a really good run in the first in the first session there with you guys. I believe he actually was near the top of the GT3 order. So just on a bit of a recovery drive by the looks of things. I did notice that I was kind of catching him first at the at the start of my stint. So obviously a bit of an off there for Fantastic.
Real quick, what I want to touch
Sorry about
on
that,
just
boys. I am
now,
back.
there's Oh, hey, buddy. Good to
Oh,
have you
just
back. One thing I wanted to touch on real quick, since there's another LMP driver in here, I just wanted to get your opinion on passing these GT3 cars here at this track. You know, there was some things spoken about whenever we were being told that possibly there weren't going to be GTE cars. Everybody was going to have to transfer over to a GT3 if they weren't running LMP. And there were some of us that were very concerned about having the GT3 cars on track due to the fact that they're so much slower on pace compared to a GTE car, that it would really throw LMP drivers for a loop on closing speed. You know, I personally have dealt with a couple of times where a GT3 car wasn't expecting me to be there when I got there, and I was shooting for a gap that was there, that as soon as I got there was then not there anymore. Just wondering how you feel about these GT3 cars on track, how respectable they've been here for you. They were very, very good for me in the last stint. I feel like the guys that were in the GT3 cars during the last stint deserve a huge round of applause and a big thank you. They were doing everything right, running completely amazingly fast, and they were moving. They were not moving off the racing line. They were doing everything they were supposed to do. Just give me your thoughts on racing the GT3 cars here at Le Mans.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, the GT3 cars not as much pace as the GTEs, so definitely something to contend with. My personal approach is to kind of keep passing through the corners to a minimum, so just a little bit of patience, just to kind of, because obviously the LMP1 cars, once you get out of the corner and you get kind of up a couple of gears and you can nail the curves, and usually like with these GT3 cars, you just fly past them. And like I say, as long as you're kind of on the light flash button and kind of making them super aware that you're there behind them, then the guys so far have been pretty good to me, and I've kind of got no complaints at the moment. I think I've had like kind of one or two in a kind of what would have been a 6-hour stint for me. So kind of that's a fairly good average for me in terms of kind of passing cars. But yeah, like you say, it's very much you do have to be aware of the closing speed between yourselves and the GT3 cars, and I think they've become more aware of that as the race has gone on.
Like I said
So
earlier,
just
yeah, I am back, boys. Like I said, sorry about that. I had to make a quick pit stop of my own. Sorry about that. What were you saying, Baseface? Yeah, sorry about that, Chris. Sounds good. Cheers.
No problem, buddy. Thanks for joining me for a little while.
Yep, that was Baseface, guys. The LMP driver. He did suffer from the unfortunate disconnect. You guys all had the pleasure of hearing from him. Great guy. He's also going to be taking over broadcaster's perspective for me for the 7 o'clock hour, 7 a.m. for you guys over there across the pond. It seems like just in the 5 minutes that I was gone here, a storm just rolled in over this beautiful sunrise that we were watching. What happened there?
Well, we were told in the driver's briefing. I have been, listening every time one of our guys gets in the car. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be up for 24 hours straight. I'm not going to get any daggum sleep until this race is over, or the final stint has started, and I can get I can help my driver get lined out. We were told in the race briefing that there was the possibility of fog. Now, whenever they say there's a possibility of fog, we know that there's going to be fog because it's something that they have to program into the lobby before we actually load in. So we all knew that this fog was coming. We just weren't 100% sure of when it would get here. Good thing that it has come now that the sun has already come up some. So the sun will burn this fog off rather rapidly. Most likely over the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'll probably see that fog go away. There's only a minute and 20 left in this race now. So if you could do us a favor real quick, let's check on the LMP drivers real fast.
Perfect.
Because this is going to be getting to the crucial point of their fuel load. So as we look at the leader, he currently has 48 liters of fuel on board as he is coming up to lap a GT3 car. That looks like that's going to be Trucker in the Mercedes as they go by on the front straightaway. So currently, since he has those 48 liters of fuel on board, that's going to be good for him. That's most likely going to get him to that 45-minute mark. As an LMP team, basically the 45-minute mark, if you have the 13-lap fuel load car, aka the Toyota or the Porsche, 45 minutes, if you pit after that, will get you to the end safely. Now, looking at his fuel load, he may be able to go all the way down to about the 40-minute mark. But I would expect that we would see the leader in the Toyota come in around 40 to 45 minutes left in the race. Let's go ahead and take a look at Whiffy's fuel load real quick, see how he's doing on that.
Whiffy about the
So
same.
Whiffy winner. Yeah, Whiffy having just a slightly less fuel, which that kind of concerns me. I'm trying to rack my brain around that and figure that out. I've been wondering how that's happening for a while now, because if I remember correctly, Whiffy has stopped after the Toyota, or they stopped on the same lap. So the Toyota is doing a little better on So the Toyota is doing a little better on fuel compared to the Porsche. Now the Porsche, I can tell you wholeheartedly, 100%, he will be able to make it to that fuel window and get on a new set of tires and take that car home to the end. So we will definitely see Whiffy winner in pit lane around the 40 to 45 minute mark.
Tank slapper actually going into the first chicane.
But he saved
to
it.
save the
and
car.
He didn't hit a wall.
Definitely.
Well, see, this is all that we've asked Whiffy to do for this stint. Whiffy, like we were saying earlier, he wasn't happy with himself. He didn't have a very good first stint out here in the Porsche. So we asked him to just take his time. Don't try to race the Audi. We told him that. Don't try to race the Audi, because the Audi's going to eventually pull from you. Just race the Toyota. Well, after the first few laps, we started talking about it, and we said, look, just go ahead and just run your own race. Don't worry about what the Toyota's doing. Just get this Porsche to the end, no mistakes. And so far, he's been doing that. We haven't seen him take any damage. We haven't seen any lengthy pit stops to repair anything. So Whiffy's doing everything that the team has asked him to do right now. He's doing a very good job. Same with Get Puck. Doing a great job out there in the Toyota in the lead. Currently 1 minute 20 seconds clear of the Porsche. Let's take a look down through the field real quick and just see how everybody's doing fuel load wise and tire wise. Currently in third place, Miyagi doing a great job. Oh no, as he hit the wall! Oh, commentator's curse.
Ouch. That's been a really big theme today, the commentator's curse. As soon as we start talking about somebody, we get right on board with them, and not even a half second later, they put it right into the wall. Definitely going to have to be a pit stop for Miyagi now, and that's going to open up the opportunity for Vantage. Vantage only with a liter of fuel. Oh, man.
So Vantage coming out of the Porsche curves now, definitely going to be making his pit stop, but he has no damage on the Bentley whatsoever. Don't make the mistake of passing the pit lane. It looked like he was about to for a second.
Can we just commend Vantage on bringing that Bentley into the pit lane with half a liter of fuel left? Half a liter of fuel.
That's a driver that knows exactly what the car is capable of. That is amazing stuff by him.
Wow.
So now you can see he's getting into his pit box and he's getting serviced, whereas the Porsche directly behind him is still sitting there getting repaired. That Bentley should get out in front of that Porsche with time to spare, whereas Trucker has now taken over the lead.
Let's see here.
Trucker is now taking over the lead of the GT3 class.
And I just went on board for him for a second as he crossed the start finish line. It looked like he had about 65 liters of fuel as well.
Yeah, he's got enough
There
that
you go.
he can.
The
I don't
lollipop is
think he
up
can go to
on.
the end from there.
Oh wow! And the Porsche actually getting out ahead, just a little bit of Vantage. Vantage still in the pits. So maybe not the advantage that Vantage was looking for.
I'm confused as to why that Bentley is still sitting there. That Bentley should have been rolling by now, and he's
Yeah,
still
he's
sitting
still
there.
sitting there. Wow, with 130 liters of fuel on board now. Now getting
He's
off.
going to the end. Go back and look at the Porsche. How much fuel did the Porsche put in?
The Porsche put on the same amount, 120.
Porsche put on 120. Vantage put on 130. I'm not sure why he sat there for so long. There was no damage on that Bentley whatsoever.
No.
He must have just decided that he had to get up and use the gentleman's facilities real quick, I guess.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, we'll definitely hear from him. I know we might want to get him into the booth after his stint if he's got time to figure out what happened there.
Yeah,
As,
it is possible that he may have gotten up and gotten something to drink or something. Ooh, as we see the Porsche cutting that chicane just a little bit
yeah.
right there. Gonna have to be careful about that. The stewards are watching very intently. During my stance, if I ever cut a corner, I would immediately not even touch my curves button for that whole entire next straightaway. If I cut it very bad, which I did a few times during that last night stint that I did, I wouldn't even go over 130, 140 mile an hour for quite a while until I knew 100% that I had given back every bit of that time I had gained. The stewards being very, very courteous to a lot of the race teams, giving a lot of insight to a lot of these guys today. They've been on the horn with many different teams today, saying, "Hey, we've gotten reports of this. We're not sure if it's true or not. Just let your driver know, and tell him to take it easy." And a lot of the guys have been taking it very, very well. So good to see that the stewards are doing their job. Some warnings have been handed out here and there as needed. Stewards doing a great job today. As we're looking now, Trucker in that beautiful Mercedes going around the turn there, the right-hander, I believe that's going to be Arnage. Is it not? He's making the run down to the Porsche curves. Listen to that V8. Beautiful sound.
Yeah, definitely one of the better sounding cars in the game.
Somebody said in the chat he's getting a chicken sandwich. Oh boy, Chick-fil-A don't make you faster.
Hey, Chick-fil-A is actually closed on Sundays. Sunday morning in France,
That is true.
there's no Chick-fil-A available. I don't know, unless you're a Mulsanne Collective driver, maybe they've got some contacts with Chick-fil-A.
All right, so just looking at it real quick. So the Porsche of Miyagi and the Bentley of Vantage both fueled to go to the end of this race, if I'm not mistaken. They both took on a full fuel load. I'm pretty sure both those cars are going to go to the end of this race with only 1 hour and 11 minutes left in this race. So now we're going to have to see when Trucker, Toxin on Fire, and our sixth place runner, who I forget his name again.
Ooh,
Mr.
Toxin.
Fox, right? Yeah.
Yes, and it looks like Toxin now going into the pits.
And he's still got quite a bit of
and
fuel
dash.
on board. No, he's got a lot of damage on the front end of that Porsche. Look at that. Caved in. A lot of damage on the front end of that car. He's going to have to roll in here and get serviced. He's going to have to get that damage repaired. Probably losing a lot of time on those last few laps from that damage. I noticed earlier on in this lap when I had stated that he had cut the chicane, he had quite a bit of damage on that car already.
And
as we see the Bentley rolling through.
Bentley now passing The Porsche in the pits. Porsche still fueling up. Lollipop is up. Now they're going to be repairing the damage. The GT3 field, I have to say, in this stint, they've been very, very tightly packed together, keeping it very interesting for us. So what do you have to make here of Mr. Fox, with 86 liters of fuel left on board? Do you think he can make it to the end?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this.
We can stick on board for we can stick on board
let's
for a
stick
lap.
on board with him. Okay, let's see. Where's he at now? He's making his run down to the second chicane on the Mulsanne. So let's see. He has 85.7. So let's see what he has whenever he hits the brakes. Boom, he's got 85.4.
Yep.
So he's got 85.4. So let's see what the Ferrari driver has after that. And is it just me, or is he still rolling around looking like a horse done kicked the front of that car in?
It does seem like he might be suffering a bit on the straights. I think there might be a little bit of a glitch, though, with the commentators, because if we go on board real quick with Miyagi's car as well, I mean, obviously Miyagi definitely got repairs, and the front end of that car still looks like it met a wall.
No, it doesn't.
On my screen,
let me look at it from this angle.
Yeah, if you look at it coming out of the Mulsanne curve,
okay, yeah.
It looks about just as banged up as the Ferrari, if not worse.
Yeah, it looks like a horse didn't kick it. It looks like a horse done sat on it, rolled over,
yeah,
like
it's got a elephantitis, maybe. Yes.
All right, so now we're all wondering who can make it to the end and who can't. Currently waiting to see what the Ferrari does throughout this lap, and then we'll be able to give you some more definite answers. As you can see, the sun
we said it was
higher in the sky now.
Just to correct, or just so I'm clear, it was 85.5 going into that second Mulsanne, right? And that second
85.4 to be exact.
Okay.
So if I had to guess, let's see, he still has 82.8, so he's already burned over 2 liters of fuel throughout this portion of the lap. I'm going to say they're burning at least 7 liters a lap.
And they are running about 4 minutes, 4.5, 4 minutes and change. 4 minutes, 5 seconds per lap. 4 minutes, 6.
Yeah, look at Miyagi running a 402 and Tactical Trucker running a 401, fastest car on the track for
that
the
Mercedes-Benz
GTs right
is
now.
no joke, man. In the straights, it loves to run.
Well, yeah, and look at the lap times for the LMPs as well. LMPs running a little slower than what we saw them doing in the daytime. We saw the LMPs running about 321, 322, somewhere in there. These guys currently with the track being cooler and not wanting to be as fast, the car doesn't want to go as fast down the straightaway. They're running on average about 4 to 5 seconds slower than what they would have ran in the daytime. I've seen both these guys on the track in the daytime running faster times than that. So currently, through the changing weather conditions, they're still not too sure about that car. So currently, Jacob believes that they're using about 7 liters a lap. He says it may be a little less than that, but pretty close. We'll see, Jacob. I think that you're probably right. I think that you're probably right, but me as the mathematician here, commentator, I'd rather wait for him to get back to that second chicane. As we see him now going through the first one, here we're going to get a good idea.
Yeah,
so let's see. He comes out of that chicane with 79.9. Let's see here.
Seems like almost 6.5 liters per lap.
Let's see, as he goes into the braking zone, coming up here very shortly, 79.
Yeah.
So 79.1. All right. I'll do that math real quick. I'll get right back with you.
For those of you that don't need a calculator, that's going to be about 6.5 liters per lap. With 4 minutes a lap, you're definitely going to need to refuel here. Ooh, actually, it's going to be close. We might actually see a situation here with Mr. Fox, the same thing that happened with 2 Flash. I don't know. I don't want to break out my calculator just because the suspense is killing me. I'd like to wait to the end. But I think it's going to be a tight squeeze here. With 6.5 liters a lap, you're thinking in about 40 minutes, he's going to take away about 60 liters of fuel. Yeah, he's definitely going to need to make another stop.
All right, so just doing the math real quick, I believe that the Ferrari can carry 120 liters of fuel. If I'm mistaken, somebody in the chat let me know. That equals about 19 laps of fuel. So currently at the pace that they're running, he is not going to have the fuel to make it, so he is going to have to do one more stop, which leads me to believe that Tactical Trucker is going to have to do another stop, and also... No, Toxin on Fire will not have to do another stop. He'll make it to the end. Miyagi and Vantage also will make it to the end. So currently our our current P3 and P4 overall in this stint, first and second in the GT3 class, are both going to have to pit. So they will not make it to the end. So most likely we'll see them fall down the order, as all of them are pretty well stacked within a few, not even a few minutes of each other.
What's my guys' fuel at? Jacob would like to know the fuel. Jacob, your driver, Mr. Tactical Trucker, I believe that's Jacob, GRG Jacob. I'm not 100% sure. But he's sitting right now at about a little less than 45 liters of fuel. With the gap that he has, it is looking like pretty much he's going to have to be the one that beats out Miyagi. Because Miyagi's going to make it to the end here as he crosses the start-finish line. Tactical Trucker halfway through the Mulsanne straight. It's going to be very interesting to see here. I would have to say you might want to do a little bit of precise calculation there to save your tenths. I would not put a full 120 liters of fuel on if I was Tactical Trucker when I go into the pits. I would try to get the precise amount of fuel in so that you can finish the race with less than 2 liters left. I wouldn't waste more time in the pits than needed because Miyagi's still closing that gap.
Well, looking at it now, Miyagi is currently 18.13 behind the LMP leader, currently running 45 seconds behind Mr. Fox, but Mr. Fox is definitely going to have to pit, as we said before. I believe Mr. Fox will not be able to come out in front of Miyagi due to the amount of fuel they're going to have to put in that car.
So it actually looks...
As Mr. Fox is heading in.
No, it looks like Mr. Fox.
That.
Yeah, Mr. Fox having an issue there, maybe with the brakes being a little too hot as he has to go through the exit road there, the runoff of the second chicane. From what I'm seeing here, it actually looks like Tactical. So Tactical has 50 seconds on Fox, and Fox has 20 seconds on Miyagi. So that leaves the door open for Tactical to make another pit and still be ahead of Miyagi if he doesn't have any of the damage, which it looks like that Mercedes is. just as clean as when it started. So if he can get the fuel right, oh God, as I say, the commentator's curse. He gets a nasty tank slapper in the Porsche curves. He corrects it though like a boss.
What a save. And it's very hard to
Absolutely.
save one of those cars. All the weight of that car is in the front end. So once the rear end begins to step out, as it did with some of that oversteer, it's very hard to get it back. Usually you'll just light up those rear tires and you won't get that back. So very good heads up driving by a trucker. Very, very good heads up driving.
Yeah, not even losing much time there either to Mr. Fox. Only about a second of time that he lost. But still, he's going to need to do better than that if he's going to want to perform the free pit stop that he needs to win this stint. As you say that, as you were talking about it, like you said, the sun's starting to shine through here on these beautiful French Le Mans corners, this beautiful circuit. This really is the last of a dying breed, with these circuits. A lot of the old school circuits back in the day were just long, open, 2-lane roads with just chicane. You'd go for about 2 kilometers and then chicane. So it's really nice that this track still exists, because with tracks like Spa, we were running the 8-hour event. And if you look back at how that track started, it was really similar to the layout here at Le Mans, where it was a very long open road section separated by chicanes. And now, after that being too dangerous and being deemed too dangerous, the drivers actually boycotting that and getting that track to its official status, which it is now. That was back in, I believe, the 70s or late 70s, early 80s. So it's really nice to see that Le Mans has still kept that heritage.
Don't ask that all inquisitively like I'm going to know the answer, fella. I'm only 24. Hell, I wasn't even a sperm yet.
To be honest, you got a year on me. I'm only 23. I like to use my little phone here to give me some quick facts. I had a lot of some fun spa facts for our 8-hour event. But that was I don't remember the exact date, but yeah, they actually boycotted the track in the late 60s, early 70s, and they said that they're not racing on it anymore until it becomes more safe. So Spa actually getting the change that it needed.
Yeah, but Spa back in the day, historic Spa, what a beautiful and fun track that was to drive. It kind of reminded you a little bit of the Northcliffe, because it was almost like you ended up in the forest at one point, and it was almost identical to running on the Northcliffe. And what a fun track it was to drive too, because yes, it was very, very long, but at the same time, there wasn't that many corners to it, so it was easy to comprehend the track and remember it and retain it in your muscles as a driver. Even on, these virtual races that we do, we love it, and you still develop the muscle memory for this race as you would if you were in the actual car, in the actual cockpit, feeling all those G's. We still develop the muscle memory for this lap. Even at Le Mans, you develop it. There's times during my stint where I would go, 2 or 3 laps, and I'd be like, "Hey, what's the gap to the car behind?" And they tell me the gap, and I'm like, "Well, how did it get that large? Or how did it get that small?" And they're like, "Well, you've done 7 laps since
Wait a
you
second.
last
I
asked
think we just
me."
suffered another disconnect.
No, that's my car.
Oh no, yeah, the last LMP driver.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh no, the disconnect claiming another victim. That's definitely opening up the gap now for the Boxyard team.
So now Toyota can basically win this race just on lag out, because they haven't had a driver lag out yet, if I'm not mistaken. They haven't had that problem. Only BRL and Team Audi have had this issue.
Yeah.
So right now,
possible. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
In the
So
8
right now,
hours of
Toyotas
Spa.
are getting run away with it.
Yeah, in the 8 hours of Spa, I think every team had their fair share of disconnects, and at the end, it did turn out to be a really close race. But we're gonna see how that unfolds with the Porsche or the Audi team taking the biggest hit, and then of course now your team as well, the BRL team, BRL MPH team taking another hit here with 55 minutes left to go into the stint. Now we have Puck hopping into the pit lane a little earlier than the 45-minute recommended window. Do you think he's just going to be playing it safe now, I guess? Do you think he could make it to the end with the fuel that he has?
Well, I'm not sure. Okay.
Yep. Here, I could try to. It won't let me invite you through the game just because it's a private lobby, and I can't invite you from broadcaster's perspective.
Yeah, well, the car's not even on the track anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not even. Yeah, once you
Yeah,
disconnect,
no, like as soon as you lag out,
you're done. Yeah. If you'd like, if you'd like to include your audio, we'd love to hear. We'd love to hear how you're feeling.
Oh God!
I know it's still a little,
Whiffy, you were
it's a little
doing so
touchy
good,
subject. You were doing great, Whiffy.
I'm so glad he didn't include his audio.
Yeah.
All right,
If
Whiffy,
we could go ahead
Whiffy,
and
just go to bed. Just go to
yeah.
bed, dude.
No worries. You for all, for all the viewers, we're just gonna go ahead. I'll go ahead and translate for Whiffy there. It was Whiffy's very, very disappointed with the disconnect. He was so eager to get back into the race. He was asking us for invites into the race. Unfortunately, since the car is already off the track, there's no way he could do anything but just watch from the pit box. He's absolutely vexed, as they would say across the pond. Over here, we say pissed off. Just absolutely pissed off with the disconnect there. Very unfortunate. But we will probably see him again in the final stint. He's claiming that he wants to drive again, and he's coming back with a vengeance. So,
yeah. So on our team, we had that ability with there only being 3 of us, as I had stated earlier. It was set up for me and Livid to do 3 stints and Whiffy to do 2 stints. But Livid and Whiffy were kind of both saying they didn't really care out of the 2 of them who ran the final stint. And I had said that I didn't care either. So if Whiffy wants to get all upset and get back in that car and run that final stint, that's fine by me. If he wants to run that 3rd stint, that's going to be great for him to get back in the car.
I do want to say real quick,
did we lose another car?
No, I just want to say I'm sorry for interrupting you, but Vantage was actually able to make the move on Miyagi now. So Miyagi absolutely on the back foot, and Tactical now coming in for his pit stop. Interesting move here from Tactical to come into the pit stop so early with still 25 liters of fuel left. Maybe he's getting the radio that the pit stop is active. You know, he's got enough time to get in, get some fuel, and get the heck out of there and win the race or win the stint for GRG.
Well, the thing is, if he comes in now, he doesn't have to put as much fuel in the car. But it's kind of a weird trade-off. If he comes in now, he doesn't have to put as much fuel into the car. If he comes in later, he has to put a little bit more fuel into the car, but he would have been faster for a few laps on that much lighter fuel load. As we were talking about, you have to act as if this is old-time Formula One when it comes to the pit stop strategy, because the overtake is very powerful when you use the overcut, as we see the lead LMP coming up on Mr. Fox now.
Mr. Fox,
coming into the
we're going to stay on
chicane.
board with him. I want to keep the suspense up as Tactical is sitting in the pits. Mr. Fox coming around. Looks like Tactical is actually out of the pits now. He's out of his box. Not enough though to make the pass. Mr. Fox, now your effective leader. He's got 56 liters of fuel left. Like you were saying, I know you were doing your quick math over there. Does quick math say that he's making it to the end with 56 liters of fuel?
Well, there's 49 minutes left in the race. If I had to guess, he could make it to the end. Let's look at Mr. Vantage back there in fourth, excuse me, and let's see how much fuel he has on board right now. He has 83 liters, which leads me to believe that Mr. Fox doesn't have enough fuel, because I don't see why Bentley would come in and put more fuel on the car than what they need to finish the stint, because all they're doing is just weighing the car down.
Right.
Let's take a look at some of the other GT3 cars' fuel loads. Let's look at the third place driver and see how much fuel he's got.
So third place is Vantage. He's third place for the GT3. It says fourth, but if you look actually in the middle, in between the lap times, it'll tell you the category that. So first place would be Mr. Fox. Yeah. So Vantage
I'm going
third.
overall.
Oh, overall, yeah. Overall, third place would be Tactical Trucker. He's got 117 liters. He went in for his pit just now with the 25 liters of fuel that he had. So it looks like they might have thrown about the 120 liter max into that car. And Toxin as well, coming in for his pit stop, has some damage. He's got enough fuel to finish the race. Maybe just fixing up the damage on the car. And topping off as well. Yeah, sorry about that mistake there. So yeah, so I guess so Mr. Fox is definitely going to be, this is going to be the story of the stint here, Mr. Fox, to see if he can make it to the end. So, Tactical is sitting in a really nice position now with the distance that he has on Vantage. About 14, almost 15 seconds on Vantage.
Okay, so just my quick math shows, and I could be wrong because I'm not the strategist at BRL. I've never been very good at this, but it says, according to my math, you need at least 63 liters of fuel to make it to the end from here. So according to that math, right. Fox doesn't have the fuel.
Yep. Fox is about 12 liters, 13 liters too short.
And like I had said, we had Taylor Clan attempting to save fuel during his last stint through the night. And he was going as far as clutching into the corners and braking a little early so that way the engine didn't have to do any of the slowing as Fox goes off the track just a little bit there, you saw on your screen. And Taylor was only able to save a couple liters. He was able to save, I believe, somewhere along the lines of 6 to 8 liters, but he needed like 2 more and he couldn't make that up and had to make that extra stop. So I believe we're going to see Mr. Fox have to do the same thing unless my math just sucks.
It is going to be interesting to see here as we are closing into the final 45 minutes of this stint. The sun is now up, the clouds are clearing, and the track is getting some much needed temperature. Now, I guess the interesting thing here would be for these next drivers, we're probably going to see maybe a hard slick. Do you think the track might be a little hot enough for a hard slick strategy? Or how
No. These cars, the tires in this game are kind of funky. It depends on what car you're in. The GT3s and the LMPHs really can't run that hard slick. The soft slick, as we heard the driver from the Audi Baseface talking about earlier, they can do 2 fuel stints on 1 set of soft compound tires.
Wow.
I will tell you now that Porsche can do 3 fuel stints on 1 set of soft compound tires.
Wow.
We haven't done it because, you know, all of us are on a wheel, and once those tires get below about 50% to
You really start feeling
45%, well, going down the straightaway, let's just say every little nook and cranny in the track is like trying to rip the wheel out of your hand.
Yeah.
So
What kind of wheel do
we
you play
all
on?
have just. I've got a Thrustmaster TMX, but
Oh, nice.
God
play on the
forbid
Logitech.
I picked the. Oh, I picked the worst. I've ordered an entire new setup. I ordered the TX with the Formula One add-on wheel.
Nice. Yeah, the
And I
TX I heard is a
ordered
really good wheel.
Yeah, and I ordered a Next Level Racing FGT Lite GT / Formula One simulator cockpit,
Very nice.
and I've received the add-on wheel. I received it within a week of ordering it, but I have yet to hear about my base being shipped for the wheel, and I have yet to hear any news on my simulator rigs or the actual cockpit.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what's going on there. It's probably got something to do with that damned coronavirus messing everything up. Even
Yeah, I
messes up my
believe it.
racing.
Everything is getting taxed
but
through the roof.
but anyway,
Yeah,
the
we're on.
softs last long enough and they stay up. The problem with this track is you have such long straightaways that even the softs, as you come down into the Mulsanne corner, as we see the who is that? The Bentley. As we see the Bentley go through that corner now, your tires are almost cold. Like if you're looking on the actual tire monitoring system on the car, they're in the blue. They look like icicles by the time you get down there.
Yeah.
So once you make it to Indianapolis, they start to get some temperature into them. Once you make it through Arnage, they got a little more temperature in them. Then once you get to the Porsche curves, they heat up and they're working perfectly. And then they start to cool off once you finish Dunlop and you come back onto the Mulsanne straight. If you were running the mediums, you wouldn't be able to get the temperature into, or if you were running the hard slick, I'm sorry, you wouldn't be able to get the temperature into them at all. So you would have no pace throughout all of the first part of the track, and you would have no pace at all through the Porsche curves. So the reason everybody is running the soft slick is because it retains temperature better, and they last quite a long time. So
Yeah.
these GT3 cars are running the same. Like for BRL, I heard our guys earlier do a 2-stop where they did a short fuel load and then a longer fuel load to make it to the end. Well, on the short fuel load, they did not stop for new tires. So they did a short fuel load and then topped the car off, did a full fuel run, and then came in and put new tires on. So they're only going through 2 sets of tires throughout this entire 3-hour stint. And they're soft compounds. So I don't believe anybody here is touching the hard slick. If they are, they've either got their car set up so janky that it's able to run them, or they're just crazy.
Yeah.
I'm ready for bed.
Yep, me too. We're closing into these last 40 minutes here, and I cannot wait for Baseface to take over. As we are on board here with DOR Vantage, as he's trying to close the gap on Tactical Trucker. The gap, though, seems to just be still slipping away as it's now 17 seconds, almost a second a lap that Tactical is able to keep here on Vantage.
Well, the Mercedes really has the advantage over the Bentley throughout most of this track. The Mercedes almost as fast as the Bentley down the straightaway, but the Mercedes is also set up very well for the corners. It's got a lot of splitter, a lot of rear wing, quite a bit of ground effects all throughout the bodywork of that car. It's very well set up for a track like this. It can handle well and create a lot of mechanical grip throughout the chicanes, throughout Dunlop and the Porsche curves, but it's also got that Mercedes engine in it that we were talking about earlier that is very, very powerful and just makes a lot of horsepower to just throw that car down the straightaway. So,
As
not surprised at all to see
Puck
him
hopping into the
pulling
pits
away.
again. This could affect the overall laps that they're putting in. I know this team is ahead now with the disconnects, which I mean are definitely going to affect the overall race with those two disconnects, especially the Audi team getting those, suffering from two disconnects in two stints in a row.
Well, it doesn't look like he took on any fuel. Possibly during that last stop, he came in and just topped off and did not get tires. So the team has told him to come in and put on a brand new set of boots so that way he's on the best car possible to finish this race. They just need to tell him to bring it home and not do anything crazy because now Toyota is going to have the overall lead of this race. The only way Toyota could lose this race now is if they themselves have quite a lot of issues over the next, let's see, what is there, 3 or 4 stints left now? So I think there's 3 stints left. Yeah, 3.
Yeah, we're going to be closing in on the final 3 stints.
So they'd either have to have a lot of issues or they themselves would have to lag out of one of the next 3 sessions.
That's actually a good point to bring up. Yeah, I was just going to bring that up as well, that the team BRL, LMPH, if you guys, if, you know, or if the Boxyard team, if they suffer from any disconnects, it will bring the Audi team back into contention. And we could have another battle on our hands.
Hopefully, you don't, like we were saying earlier, you don't ever wish a disconnect on somebody. But right now, I'm pretty sure all the boys at Toyota are liking what they see. You know, their closest competition is now going to be about 20 laps behind them overall. So Toyota's in a great position to win this 24-hour race, I'm sorry to say, by a landslide, just due to the fact that Project Cars still has an issue with the lobby of holding and retaining racers in the lobby. We've never been able to figure out why, if it's something that we can help remedy from our end.
That's actually a good point that you brought that up. That's what I was talking about with Jimmy, with Get Pucked. The main problem that I think that Project Cars suffers from is that all of their lobbies are a peer-to-peer connection. So that means that the host of the lobby has to be pretty much in the central of the world of everybody that's playing, and they have to have the strongest connection for anyone to hold a chance of competing. You know, I had the biggest problem competing in the touring cars because of the fact that I was all the way on the West Coast and the host was all the way in the UK, and it was a UK server, you know? So you really do suffer from the peer-to-peer connection that this game has.
Yeah, hopefully with the next Project Cars, which they have been talking about for a while now. We haven't really seen anything 100% concrete, but they've been talking about that Slightly Mad Studios is working with Codemasters on a Project Cars 3. Hopefully they'll do some sort of dedicated servers that will make this a lot easier for drivers to stay in the lobby. As we've seen tonight, a lot of good drivers having their races ruined due to connection issues. So hopefully that's something that will dissipate in the near future with the new game. As we currently watch the LMPH of the Toyota team start another lap, coming down the straightaway doing very well in this race. They have not lost any ground to any competitor. They've gained ground. Currently, Audi looks as though they will be somewhere around 70 laps down in their LMPH. That's going to bring them all the way down to the rear of the field, even behind some of the GT3 cars. BRL has just had a disconnection. Unfortunate for us, our car looks like it will be about 20 laps down. As the Toyota has gotten out into the wall, trying to pass the Porsche, beat up Porsche. Toyota looks like it may have a little bit of left front damage on the aero, so hopefully they can get that repaired. Toyota really need to tell their driver to just kind of cool it down, take it easy. It's only him competing against himself out there on the track right now. Just needs to do what he can to get that car home, because it is still possible that he could have a huge issue and roll that car and make it to where that car is useless.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, when you're competing against yourself, you can be your own worst enemy out on the track sometimes. But it is good that hopefully he's got his team in his ear, letting him know that he needs to just keep a level head and get through the stint.
All right, my friend. Well, I believe that's going to do it for me for the night. I'm going to go head off and get some Z's and look at the back of my eyelids for a little while before my next stint in the morning.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining me here in the booth, Mr. Aldefer.
No problem.
It was nice meeting you. Hopefully, get to see your performance again on the track. You did really great in the stint that I watched, and I'm looking forward to seeing you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Good to meet you. Love your commentary. Can't wait to see you here later on this morning.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Loved it as well. That was Mr. Aldefer, guys. He's going to hop out of here, get some sleep for his stint that he's got coming up. As we approach the final 30 minutes in this stint, after suffering from some major disconnects in the LMPH category, Get Pucked for the Team Boxyard is the only left standing LMPH driver. Then we have Mr. Fox leading the GT3 category, where he's going to be running really low on fuel here. Going to have to make another stop if he's going to want to finish this race. Tactical Trucker also doing a great job, as he's got more than enough fuel to finish the race, but does he have enough pace to keep ahead of DOR Vantage? It seems to be that he is gaining at least a second per lap on DOR Vantage. But Vantage is a great driver, so we can see how that unfolds as we have around 30 minutes left in the stint. Thank you guys for sticking with us and watching. This is a 24-hour charity event that we are hosting through the Concept Racing series. We're a Discord channel, or we have our Discord set up. If you guys want to get involved, feel free to message anybody that you see in the race or anybody in the chat. We can get you an invite into the Discord. We have tons of races that we host. We've got a GT5 league for our newcomers. If you're new to the game, you want to get some track knowledge and maybe some tips on becoming a better driver, more track awareness, more than welcome to join the GT5 league. Lots of great racing there. We also host a 488 challenge series. Lots of fun, great racing, and it definitely is a challenge with some real challenging tracks. We have a touring car series as well every Sunday. The touring cars are absolutely amazing. I believe next week they are going to be, I'll pull up the calendar for you there, but we also do a vintage GP track, or a vintage GP series, where they're racing in the old school Lotus. Very hard car to drive, very great racing. And of course, you can't forget about the Indy cars. The Indy cars absolutely smashing all the drivers in the Indy cars. Really great racing, wheel-to-wheel action from beginning to end. Yes, so the touring cars, actually, it looks like next week they're going to be racing at Zolder. The vintage GPs are going to be at Red Bull Ring. Some great racing there coming up. Tactical still keeping that gap on Vantage. Coxon really starting strong. Having some issues there with that Porsche. In the Porsche curves, actually. And he's suffering from a little bit of damage, but he's still bouncing back and trying to finish strong for his team. Miyagi as well was doing so great, and he suffered from some problems going into Indianapolis and coming out of Homage, causing him some issues there. The real one to watch, though, is going to be Mr. Fox, as we're closing in now. 29 minutes left, and he's only got 24 liters of fuel. He's definitely going to have to make another pit unless he starts really conserving the fuel here. Tactical Trucker as well, now actually closing the gap on Mr. Fox a little bit, as well as Vantage starting to close in on Tactical Trucker, maybe finding a little bit of pace or a little bit of life in those tires. As Sausage Miyagi still dropping back. We can go ahead and look at the lap times here. The last lap, we have Vantage actually running a little slower than Tactical. Tactical running the fastest last lap of a 4:04.4 with his best lap of a 4:01. Sausage Miyagi maybe suffering from a little bit of a hiccup on that last lap. We're going to ride on board with Mr. Fox now just to see how close he can make it to the end of this stint with the fuel that he's got left. Mr. Fox looking like he might be backing off a bit just to save on the fuel, as he's down almost 2 seconds this lap. Might be the strategy that he needs, though. He's got a 9-second gap on Tactical. You can manage that pretty well with 26 minutes left to go. But it's still anybody's race. This stint obviously does mean a lot to win for your team, but overall the race does continue on.
going on board now with the LMPH, the last standing LMPH in this team. I know that the Boxyard team is going to be happy, but it is a bittersweet victory in this stint because you never want to see your competition lag out of the race or disconnect from the stint. You know, any good racer would want to win a good race and fight in a good race and not just win because of a disconnect. So it is bittersweet. Jimmy doing a great job here for his team. The gap now down to 6 seconds. Sorry about that. They're going through the chicane, so the gap obviously a little incorrect there. The gap's still about 8 seconds between the two. This is really going to turn out to be an interesting race. Definitely going to need to make another pit stop, though, as Mr. Fox, as he's running low on fuel. He's got about 2.5 laps left of fuel. So Tactical looking like your virtual leader as long as he can keep it on the black and keep it in front of Vantage, who still really wants to win this for the Mulsanne Collective. Mulsanne Collective did really great in the previous stint. So they're going to be hoping to be knocking on the back door of GRG, who is effectively the team that they're chasing down. They were practically tied going into the last stint. So with the last stint and this stint combined, it's going to be very interesting to see where the final standings are between the GRG and the Mulsanne Collective. Oh, just as I say that, DR Vantage suffering from a spin there coming out of the Mulsanne curve. Unfortunate. He's definitely going to be kicking himself in the butt for that. The commentator's curse has been catching everybody tonight. I do apologize for any of the teammates that are watching as I unfortunately and unknowingly curse their teammates into a wall. Jimmy actually, really funny, he was telling me in the booth when he left to start his stint, he said, "Mate, please just keep the cameras off of me. I don't want to hear your name in my mouth. You've been cursing everybody all night. Please just let me run my stint." But Jimmy's putting on a great performance here for his team, and I know his team is really happy right now. Dizzy, probably really, really happy. I know he's cheering from his dreams if he's even able to get some sleep. But I doubt it. Mr. Fox now, the fuel dwindling. It is such a great feature, a broadcaster's feature. A little bit of an unfair advantage as a broadcaster to see down to the 10th of a liter how much fuel these cars have left. Vantage coming in for his pit, unfortunately, after suffering from that damage in the Mulsanne curve. Very unfortunate for him. He was putting on such a great performance. We're actually going to go on with Miyagi now to see if Miyagi can maybe make a move here on Vantage and pick up a spot in the last 20 minutes here of this stint. We're going to try to stay on board with this stint as long as we can. I know we're going to have Baseface taking over for me in the commentary booth, so it is going to take a second to switch over the Twitch accounts and switch over Baseface to relinquish the camera angles and the broadcaster's perspective. So we probably most likely will not get to see the end of this stint. but all the results will be posted as soon as possible. We just try to get the broadcaster's perspective, and with obviously how Project Cars 2 works, you need to be in the lobby and ready to go as a broadcaster before the event starts. So we have to make sure we keep on a timely manner. With this being a 24-hour event, you don't want to be running late, because running late across a couple stints means an extra hour or two, which is not what you want in a 24-hour event. 24 hours is long enough. I think every driver and all the commentators would agree that 24 hours is more than long enough for a race. But who knows, in the future, we may run the 48 hours of Le Mans with space shuttles. And they'll just be solar-powered cars. Tactical trucker now. Now, I believe if any of Tactical, I know the GRG team watching the stream, probably in the ear right now of Tactical, letting them know, hey, don't worry about a thing. The guy in front has to pit, so you're A-okay to finish the stint. Just keep it on the track. Another unfair advantage, but an advantage that is open to anybody that wishes to watch the stream. Does maybe affect the strategy, but could also play into the strategy of some of the teams here. As Miyagi now, like we said, was able to perform the maneuver, perform the pass on Vantage in the pit lane. We did unfortunately miss that move, but now we're on board as Vantage is trying to reclaim that position. Unfortunately, we were not able to catch where the move was made, as Vantage on the cold tires running wide through the Mulsanne curve almost bends it again. Definitely not what Vantage wants right now. With only 17 minutes left to go, a lot of drama unfolding. And then we have Tactical Trucker making the move, like we were saying, on Mr. Fox. Tactical Trucker in a very tactical spot as he's leading the stint for GT3. Mr. Fox, though, that move was able to work out in Mr. Fox's advantage, and he's now second place in GT3. Mr. Fox doing a great job of strategizing into a podium position for this stint. As Miyagi now extending the gap onto Vantage. We're going to ride on board with these two because this seems to be the battle of the end of the stint. A lot of drama has unfolded. We've had 2 disconnects between the LMP drivers. Very unfortunate. You never want to see that happen. But there is still a lot of time and a lot of ground to be made up in this 24-hour event. As we are approaching the 7 o'clock hour, thank you guys all for being a part of this and watching. We will be ending the stream soon, just to relinquish the comms to Mr. Baseface, who, as you know, is a great driver and a great commentator as well. As Vantage looking on the back door now. Oh, a bit of contact going into the first chicane. Definitely not intentional, but the Porsche may be braking just a little earlier than Vantage. It's a drag race between the Porsche and the Vantage as they come down the Mulsanne straight. Absolutely beautiful shot we have here. We're going to see it again as they enter the second chicane. The Bentley just conceding a little bit, or maybe getting outran by the Porsche. As they enter the second chicane, Vantage braking really deep, able to stay on the back end of that Porsche. As they come out of the chicane up to the Mulsanne curve, Miyagi has a lead, but it's not by much. You could cover the two with a blanket with less than 15 minutes to go. We're actually going to go to the chase cam now as they enter the Mulsanne curve. Oh no, Vantage. Oh no. I was trying to keep quiet. I didn't want to curse you. Vantage suffering from some major issues in the Bentley. Wow, very unfortunate for Vantage as Miyagi just slips away from him. So unfortunate. Very unfortunate. So now it's Mr. Fox chasing down Tactical Trucker. Tactical in a pretty good spot, like we were saying. The whole GRG Mercedes team has been doing a great job of keeping consistent lap data. They've got a really good team. The Mercedes-Benz that they chose for the event as well, absolute beast of a car. One of the strongest cars, if not the strongest, and in the whole field. Just overall, in sheer performance aspects. That backfire on the Mercedes-Benz sounding like a gunshot as he goes through Indianapolis. I want to thank you guys again for sticking with us here at the Concept Racing Series 24 Hours of Le Mans. We're putting this charity event on for St. John's Ambulance. We're trying to help raise some money for St. John's Ambulance. So thank you guys to everybody that's donated and everyone that's donated their time as well. helping make this possible. I want to thank Dizzy, especially, and all the admins as well, Baseface and Redshift for all the data, and all the commentators that have been helping me out, and all the drivers of all the teams. You guys putting on a great performance for everybody today. Great show. All the viewers as well. You guys are really sticking through it. The chat's a little dead right now, but it's okay. I don't blame you. It's 6 in the morning over there in the UK, and it's getting pretty late over here as well on the West Coast. So, but we do appreciate you guys maybe drifting off to sleep to some beautiful Mercedes notes. Miyagi as well, putting on a great performance. The last stint, suffering Flash Gaming, suffering a little some hiccups, if you will, in the Porsche. Miyagi having a lot of weight on his shoulders coming into this stint to keep his team in contention. As we go to the overall lap timings here, it looks like all of the drivers are going to be on the same lap, but it does depend on how Mr. Get Pucked finishes. With less than 10 minutes to go, the sun is now up here. The track temperature definitely warming up. We're going to take you on board here for one lap with this beautiful Boxyard L&PH Toyota. Jimmy's been putting on a great performance for everyone today. Alrighty guys, that is my cue. Thank you guys so much for having me. For everybody at the Concept Racing Series, my name is Dix Insider, and I will be concluding this stint here. Hopefully you guys drop a follow, and we'll be providing some more great content here soon. Baseface is going to be taking over for me, so give him a nice warm welcome, guys, in the chat.